A family of 4 moving into a new house soon realize that they are trapped in a maze full of death traps and supernatural entities, with only one of them aware of the looping time, which resets after each time she dies. Tabby, the oldest daughter of the two, finds herself repeating the same events over and over after each time she dies. A family of 4 decide to move to a new house for a new chapter of their lives, where it turns out to be the deadliest decision that they had ever made. The father is called James, the mother is Lisa, the youngest daughter is called Melody, who has a peculiar doll named Dolly, oldest daughter, and the protagonist is named Tabby, with the cat of the family being Simon. The house seems to be haunted by murderous demons and ghosts, alongside many hazards and traps which try to kill the family in various brutal ways. Apart from the demonic ghosts, the family itself seem to be possessed and corrupted by the house, who try to kill each other. This horrible nightmare doesn't seem to end, even with death, as the time keeps looping, resetting everything to the beginning when the protagonist, Tabby, wakes up on her bed. This leaves Tabby, the oldest daughter of the family, being the only one aware of the events unfolding, with the story seen through her perspective. She seems to be the only one not fully possessed by the house, which possibly reveals a tragic secret that all of the family members, including Tabby, are already dead, with their souls still trapped in the supernatural house, where they keep suffering, dying, and killing each other. No matter what Tabby does, the numerous unlikely traps keep killing the family, and even when she manages to prevent these deaths at the end of the loop, the father comes home filled with rage and madness, holding a knife, who kills the family and eventually Tabby. There seems to be a never-ending circle of death and torture, where the family has to die in various ways over and over again. The day begins with Tabby being in a dark void, surrounded by nothing but darkness, lying on her bed. This will be an important aspect of the story, something that we will get back to later. Being prompted to wake up, as if having the option to just stay there or start something again, Tabby wakes up with the void shaping itself to represent what looks like a room. At the bottom of her bed, she finds her diary with the very first entry, giving us a clue to what's happening. Ever since the move, I sometimes can't tell if I'm awake or if I'm dreaming. The days are starting to blur together. The entry displays how Tabby feels about the move and how she might also be struggling to remember the events that she experiences before she wakes up every day, repeating the same day, looping over and over again. Going out of the bedroom, 4 separate pictures are hung on the wall, each having the picture of a family member. There is a prominent pendulum classic clock being heard very loudly, as if signifying the importance of time and how much of a limited time Tabby has before the loop resets. Checking out the bathroom, a new diary entry appears which talks about the toilet. There's something in here. I can hear it whispering to me. It wants me to do horrible things. Maybe it will stop if I listen. The unsettling diary entry suggests Tabby is being encouraged to commit murder or other horrible things, possibly to her family. These whispers are so loud and uncomfortable, which make Tabby consider doing the things that the whispers ask of her just to stop them. It's later revealed a thin and pale feminine monster resides within the toilet, which tries to manipulate Tabby to kill her family. If she does so, the entity will let Tabby go, but if Tabby doesn't do so, the entity emerges out and chases after her in order to kill her. This, alongside many other entities and whispers, try to convince Tabby to murder her family, as if the house enjoys seeing bloodshed and manipulating the family members to do horrendous things. As Tabby leaves the bathroom, she witnesses her sister, Melody, still sleeping. Leaving her bedroom, the mother Lisa finally comes out of her bedroom, starting to board up the door with nails to stop anyone from going in. Confused to what's going on or not remembering to what has happened, Melody finally wakes up, seeming lethargic and uninterested in life and conversations, wanting to only drown herself in practicing piano, playing a very somber music. When engaging her in a conversation, she simply utters that she hates something that a particular he has done. Later on, we learn this particular man that she talked about is the father who killed someone by the name of Toby. Toby was a boy who had a crush on Melody and was interested to be with her, but due to the influence of the house, the father, James, kills Toby, dropping him in the hatch of his and his wife's bedroom, trying to cover it up. The mother seems to be complicit in this by hiding the evidence, boarding up the room's door and preventing the children to go to the bed. This seems to have happened before the loop started, as we don't see Toby being killed by the father, but we can find his lifeless corpse. The mother seems to be covering up for the father due to the influence of the house, just simply and mindlessly leaving the rotting corpse in the secret hatch, which leads to the smell overtaking the house. This explains why Melody said what she said about the father, hating him for what he had done, becoming depressed and uninterested to talk to the family ever since, drowning herself in sorrow and practicing sad songs on the piano. Engaging Melody in more dialogue, she keeps on saying how she hates everything, including life, the house, herself, and pretty much everything else. As Melody plays her piano long enough, the swinging chandelier above her falls down, crushing her to death. If Tabby manages to save Melody by dropping the chandelier before she sits on the chair to play, Melody goes on to drop on her knees, having a breakdown, confirming how the father killed Toby and that life is meaningless. She then goes on to go to the bathroom where she would die by the mysterious toilet monster. Finding Toby in the secret hatch, a new entry appears in the diary. Melody hasn't been the same since it happened. Mother tries to pretend it didn't. I can still smell him rotting through the house. On the other hand, the mother goes on to prepare breakfast for her daughters, which keeps on looping. There's a leaking roof in the kitchen, which causes slippery floor, and if not prevented, the mother slips and dies from the fall. Both Melody and the mother become reanimated after their death, chasing after Tabby as if being possessed by the house. Dying multiple times, Tabby writes another entry in her diary. At first, it hurt, but I'm starting to not feel it. I can't even tell what's real anymore. I've woken up on the same day 3 times now. The more she dies, the higher the number of days gets, as if writing the diary as a journal to remember what she has experienced so far. In the kitchen, a peeping creepy woman appears behind the window who has an abnormally large extending neck. She seems to be one of the better forces in the house, maybe because she is not physically in the house but in the outside. She explains how she has observed many families move in and become possessed and trapped under the curse of the house, and accordingly confirming that Tabby is under the curse as well. She encourages Tabby to be brave and to make her younger sister feel safe and protected, confirming that she has been depressed lately, clearly from the death of her friend Toby. The neighbor goes on explaining that the house feeds on people's pain, hence why it torments them in so many different ways, both physically and mentally. She continues on that she, alongside Tabby, can only remember, with the rest forgetting everything that happened before when the time resets. This helpful neighbor seems to have somehow died as well, maybe even being cursed by the house, but as she is outside, she doesn't suffer the full impact of the house, only if she is inside, as we can see that Tabby can kill her when her neck is stretched inside the house. After managing to save the mother, this doesn't seem to improve her situation much more, as she seems to be suffering mentally, deafening her thoughts and mind by drinking glass after glass of wine to the point that she ends up snoozing. Saving the mother from slipping doesn't end there, as there will be a large monster emerging from the fridge killing the mother, but Tabby can't stop that by ambushing this monster and chopping at her extended arm before she grabs the mother. This will lead to this monster chasing after Tabby, but if she manages to evade her until midnight, her head explodes and Tabby will be safe. Another positive force in the house is a friendly talking snail, which can be carried on Tabby's head, increasing her stamina. The snail seems to be a good force which has somehow made its way into this cursed house, which even gets cross with Tabby if she kills people who do not need to be killed. Managing to survive till the end of the loop, the mad father enters the house, announcing his arrival, wielding a knife and killing Tabby in a horrendous manner. On the other hand, if Tabby manages to save everyone in the house, including the mother, the sister, the cat called Simon, and even the large hostile rat, a seemingly positive ending can be achieved where everyone is content and happy, eating together, with Tabby thinking the curse is over. But that's far from the truth, as the time loops back to the very beginning, with Tabby feeling defeated and lost, not knowing what else she needs to do to stop this horrible looping timeline full of pain and suffering. This is a sick and twisted joke the house plays on the family to give them a day of relief, just so the next day would be more miserable and painful. Unlocking some more diary entries, Tabby explains how she has understood that the father is overtaken by the curse, not being human anymore. However, there's one ending where this curse is lifted. If Tabby manages to save Melody and passes her dolly, it calms her and makes her use her flute to calm the father and lift the curse. By doing this, the father seems to have the shadow possessing him leave his body, which makes him drop to his knees, crying for the things that he had done, or better said, was forced to do, remembering all the grisly details. The doll seems to also be a living creature possessed by a soul, someone who might have lived in this house before. There's a character known as seamstress who sews clothes and makes dolls, which is heavily suggested to be the soul-possessing Dolly, a kind soul who played games with Melody until the house corrupted her. No matter what and how many endings Tabby achieves, Dolly in a post-credit scene reveals that this is far from over and that she is trapped here forever, taunting and ridiculing Tabby that there's no hope. However, after achieving all the endings, the pendulum clock gets some streaks of blood, which allows Tabby to break it using the axe. Doing that makes the loop actually break, with the time coming to a stop. The house transforms into a dimension in between reality and the looping timeline, where flayed humanoids are roaming the house. Eyeballs, a mouth, fingers emerge out of the floor and walls, depicting how the house is a living being, an organism which has been watching Tabby and the family. Going to the hatch, the wandering soul of Toby can be seen, who seems to have a stutter, revealing the father didn't like him. Moving on, a heart appears in the main room, which after shooting at causes a hole from underneath Tabby's feet, dropping her into a secret pocket dimension. In here, Tabby can find dolls in her own shape and parents' shape, all controlled by an old frail bearded man who is quite literally controlling them by strings. The old man holds on to Tabby, pleading with her to stay and gaslighting her that they are having so much fun, as if displaying what a lonely and miserable man he is, the puppet master who has been controlling the family and tormenting them just for his satisfaction. Tabby pulls back hard with all her strength, which causes her arm to come off, displaying how hard the old man was holding onto her. Tabby being freed, she uses the axe and ends the old man, putting an end to this looping torture. She then goes on to approach Dolly, who also seems to have been possessed by a corrupted spirit, who yet again tries to gaslight and discourage Tabby from fighting, but as she sees a determined Tabby, Dolly starts getting scared, with Tabby putting an end to her as well. This seems to free Tabby, making her break free from the house, sitting far from it as if being months or years later. She's holding a crutch, having lost her arm, reminiscing on what she endured and the family that she lost. She explains how she is truly free this time, not under control, and despite feeling like she was in the house, she couldn't move on her own and she felt like dreaming. Despite this ending being the true good ending, it seems like Tabby lost her entire family, whose souls are left to debate whether being freed or still trapped in the house. This also explains what the void was in the very beginning of each loop when Tabby wakes up, as she was in the void all along in a different dimension where she was looping over and over again. Going back to the old man controlling the family not to be alone, it's not clear what his fascination with the family was. But in the DLC, talking to the ghost of Grandma, it's hinted at that this puppet master was in fact the grandfather, someone who left the family as he felt like he wants to be in control of his own life. It seems like he couldn't move on and find a life worthy of living to make him happy, so instead he would be clinging onto the house and family, trying to quite literally control them in the way that he feels good and happy. But of course, through the DLC, we learn that the family's pain is not over, as the house itself is evil, and it seems like the house originally took control of the grandfather. This was not in fact a new house that they moved into, but the father's childhood house, moving back into it after many years. With the story of Tabby seemingly coming to a happy end, the DLC reveals it is far from over as we embark on a new journey in a derelict house, this time through the perspective of Melody, the younger sister. In a similar fashion to Tabby, stuck in the void, Melody wakes up from her bed, writing in her own diary how she feels. Today I woke up for what feels like the first time in months, like I've been stuck in a long dream. This correlates with what Tabby went through and what she had to do. Breaking the curse to some degree only seems to have freed Melody, who feels like she has woken up from a dream, suggesting that she has control of her own body now and her own decisions, not like how she used to be stuck in a loop, repeating the same tasks without remembering what she had done. Going through the house, the same one Tabby explored previously, it becomes clear that the house does not have the same strength and control as it did before. The family members are all rotting, being in a half-life state, not extremely aggressive, but not very friendly either. The mother can be seen drinking, something Melody is not too happy about, writing in her diary how she wished the mother would pay more attention to her if only she would put down her wine glass. Looking at the father, she writes how she hates him for what he had done, killing Toby, and looking at Toby's corpse, she feels sorry for him being stored in the secret hatch. Despite all being in a terrible state, she understands that the house has corrupted them, knowing that they were in a far worse condition before, being controlled even more. But now the house still has control over them, corrupting and twisting them. In the meantime, she meets the seamstress, a slender woman dressed in the same attire as Dolly, the doll that was taunting Tabby previously. The seamstress seems friendly and likes to play with Melody. Despite all that, the house still seems to be in control and manipulating all the souls dwelling within it. However, one soul that remains unaffected is the soul of the grandma, who shows her support to Melody and encourages her to fight on and free herself, and that she will be with her throughout the journey. The grandma even talks about the grandfather who wanted to leave the house and be in control of his own life, which in a way insinuates that the grandfather lost control to the house and became trapped in its depths, becoming the puppet master, being possessed, having his wishes and desires twisted and corrupted, controlling the family, and quite literally pulling their strings in order to not be alone, yet being in control. Melody, who has managed to wake up from being possessed, meets a bald man with a scythe who collects faces and takes away the identity and essence of people. He seems to be collecting people's souls, which we learn more about towards the end of the game when Melody goes to the depths of the house just like Tabby. In order to defeat this powerful entity who is called Jinzo, wearing a sack filled with corpses, Melody needs to play her flute in presence of the corrupted bodies of her mother, father, and Toby, which makes them break free from the chains of the house controlling them. The beautiful melody played makes them realize what's been happening to them, with the father coming to his senses, the mother stopping to drink and actually pay attention to Melody, and finally Toby rejoining with his lost, wandering soul. Doing that, all of them attack Jinzo and injure him enough in order to incapacitate him so that Melody can deliver her final blow, making him fall through the floor into the depths of the house. Attacking this entity costs them their physical body as Jinzo destroys them, but their souls remain behind and seem to become freed. Talking to the souls of the family members and Toby, they all reveal how sorry they are for what they have been doing as they had lost control. The father apologizes for killing Toby, something he didn't mean at all and always wanted Melody to be happy. The mother apologizes for the excessive drinking, saying how the house had possessed her, and finally Toby expresses how happy he is that Melody is finally free. On that note, they bid Melody farewell and disappear, seemingly being freed from the grasps of the house themselves, revealing that they had been dead for a long time, with the house only reanimating them. Melody then jumps through the floor, meeting several lost souls who explain how they don't even remember themselves very well anymore, not much remaining of them, being a void and dark shadow after they were taken by Jinzo. In the depths, Melody finds the motionless body of Tabby, having lost one arm, when she pulls her out of this realm to escape the house once again. The scene shifts to a brighter, happier scene with both Tabby and Melody sitting next to a beautiful pond, happy that they managed to escape and be somewhere far from the house. Despite what seems like yet another happy ending, the fate of Tabby, Melody, and their family still remains a mystery. In the main game, we saw Tabby going through thick and thin, dying tens of times and achieving different outcomes, yet finding herself back in the same house. Only through one ending she broke free from the time loop, even explaining it as if she had been living, sleeping and waking up in the normal world, free from the house. However, in here we find her to be actually stuck in the depths of the house, with what she experienced being just a delusion that the house was showing her, when she gets pulled out by her sister, Melody, a masterful musician whose beautiful melodies made people break free from their curse. So according to what we have observed so far, it wouldn't be a far stretch to assume that neither of Melody or Tabby have actually broken free from the house. They are possibly only being shown a happy ending and a happy life, while in fact being nothing but a delusion. It seems whoever moved to the house and wanted to leave it never managed doing so and somehow became entangled with it. The grandfather wanted to leave and have control of his own life, ending up as an old rotting man in the depths of the house, controlling his family, being under the curse of the house. Jinzo, a mysterious character, seems to have been human at some point as well, but somehow ended up being cursed and possessed, becoming a major antagonist, serving the house's desires and collecting souls, which would then serve the house even more. The father of the family ended up becoming possessed and killing Toby, then becoming a hostile entity chasing after his own family to kill them, becoming mad and cursed. The trend continues with the seamstress who becomes a hunted doll, taunting Tabby. After being freed from Jinzo, she explains how she was actually the doll, taunting Tabby, who ended up being sliced by her ex. This is the same with every other house member who after dying became hostile, with their souls becoming possessed by the house. There are tens or hundreds of other hostile souls or entities who might all have been once humans who came to the house but never managed leaving. Maybe the grandfather, becoming known as the puppet master, never actually controlled or meant for the family to be hostile and kill each other, but rather made them play pretend to be a happy family in order not to be alone himself. But the house twisted and corrupted them all, making them hostile to kill each other. Tabby and Melody never managing to leave the house is further implied in the post-credit scene, where both Tabby and Melody are sitting on a sofa and watching TV when they change to different channels, watching themselves in two separate channels, being under the influence and spell of the house, as if living in delusion. That's when the neighbor with the stretching neck comes to them and asks them not to watch TV for too long, as it won't be good for their eyes. This might be even true for Jinzo, as we also get a scene with them sitting on the sofa and watching TV, observing the two sisters in an almost identical room, watching TV. Maybe the ones who managed to somehow escape and beat the games of the house became the major antagonists who would torment others or have significant powers. Maybe Jinzo once tried to escape the house but ended up serving it, as we can see he is in a similar sofa to the girls, still watching them. On the other hand, the girls are on a new sofa in a better maintained and newer room, watching TV as well, as if they will be other powerful entities controlling and tormenting others. After all, the house feeds on people's misery and pain, so the more they struggle and the more time they are given to struggle more and more seems to somehow feed the house further. There's a second game in development available to wishlist, which according to the description on the Steam page is about being stuck in a time loop again, but this time being in the neighbor's house. So it seems they are not fully free from the house, which has control over the surrounding areas even, with the sisters still doomed to repeat the days, finding a way out of this never-ending nightmare. And that's it for this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, make sure to stay tuned for more videos and House 2 when it comes out. As always, it's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day.